You think you fear silence because it is boring. That is what you tell yourself to stay comfortable. The truth is harsher. You fear silence because in silence you lose your excuses. In silence you stop performing. In silence you cannot hide behind noise, people, and opinions. And when you are alone, the mask slips. You see the weak parts you have been feeding with distraction. You feel the hunger for approval that has been running your life. You do not call it hunger. You call it being social. You call it being busy. You call it being a good person. It is still hunger. You see it at work. A meeting goes quiet after your manager asks a question. Nobody speaks for 2 seconds. Your chest tightens. You rush to fill the space. You start explaining. You add extra details. You smile too much. You try to sound useful. You think you are showing value, but you are handing over authority. You are telling everyone in the room that silence scares you so that they can control you with it. You see it in relationships. Your phone lights up and you answer fast, even when you are tired. You give instant replies like a train service. You explain where you were. You soften your words. You over-clarify your tone. You think you are keeping the peace. You're just showing that access to you is cheap. Cheap access kills respect. Cheap access invites testing. You see it with friends and family. Someone makes a cutting joke at dinner. Everyone laughs. Your face moves before your brain does. You defend yourself. You pretend it does not bother you, and then you talk too much. You try to win them back. You try to be liked again. You accepted their frame. You stepped into their court. You handed them authority. You were being evaluated instead of evaluating. Schopenhauer understood this with cold precision. He did not romanticize people. He did not worship crowds. He saw that most humans run from their own minds because their minds are not trained. Most people do not fear silence. They fear what silence reveals about them. They fear the emptiness behind their constant performance. They fear the fact that they have been trained to be helpful, obedient, agreeable, and available, not powerful. Put your phone face down and listen. In the following few minutes, you are going to hear realities that most people refuse to face. Not because they are complex, but because they are unforgiving. You will listen to 7 power reversals about silence and solitude. Each one flips what feels safe into what is weak. Each one turns what feels cold into what is effective. Most viewers will leave when they realize this is not comfort content. Let them. The herd hates mirrors. If you stay, you separate. If you ignore this, you remain controlled. If you wait, you step out of the training that kept you harmless. If this hit you, write "I am strategist" once in the comments to mark the day your mindset changed. Now listen closely. The first thing you need to see is that silence is not empty. Silence is a test. Every time there is silence, someone is measuring who breaks first. The one who breaks first wants approval more. The one who speaks first is the one who is asking for permission. You think speaking first makes you look confident. In reality, talking first often makes you look needy. Picture the workplace again. A colleague challenges your idea in front of others, not with facts, but with tone. They say, "Are you sure that will work?" They laugh back. They let the silence hang after the question. That silence is a hook. It is designed to pull you into explanation mode. If you jump in with a long defense, you accepted their frame. You told the room that you are on trial. You gave them the judges, and you made yourself smaller. The weak move feels polite. You explain, you justify, you add context. You start negotiating with their perception. You try to be understood. You try to be seen as reasonable. It feels good because you get to feel like the good guy. It also makes you controllable. The room respects those who do not need to beg for clarity. The cold move is simple. You pause, you let the silence sit. You look at them as if you had heard them, but you do not rush to answer their question. Then you answer in one sentence, or you ask a question back. What part do you think will fail? Or B, said O, what? Now the court shifts. Now they are the ones who must produce substance. You flipped the evaluation. You moved from being judged to judging. Schopenhauer would not call this charisma. He would call it understanding the will. Impulses and fear drive most people. They seek comfort, belonging, and safety. They use questions, jokes, and doubt as tools to pull you into their emotional space. They want to feel superior by making you dance. Silence breaks that spell. Silence exposes their tactic. Silence shows that their little performances do not move you. This is why people fear silence. In silence, you cannot hide behind constant reaction. In silence, you have to face the fact that you are easy to steer. The crowd learns to steer you by watching how you react. Another reality is that solitude is not the same as loneliness. Solitude is separation from the approval market. Most people confuse the two because they have never trained themselves to be alone without craving an audience. They call it loneliness because loneliness sounds like a problem to solve. It makes them feel normal. It protects their ego. The real issue is different. The real problem is that their identity depends on being witnessed. Look at how people behave in relationships. They want closeness, but they deliver desperation. They want respect, but they sell availability. They want to be valued, but they flood the other person with attention like a leaking pipe. They think constant contact equals commitment. It does not. Constant contact equals low standards. You text back instantly. You apologize when you did nothing wrong. You over-explain why you were busy. You volunteer emotional updates you were not asked for. You say, "I just want you to understand." That's an alarm sentence. It tells the other person you want approval. It tells them your frame is weak. Now they can test you with silence. They can disappear for hours and watch you spiral. They can send one cold message and watch you chase warmth. You made yourself predictable. The moral inversion is brutal. What feels loving is often weak. What feels distant is usually respected. This is not cruelty. This is not a game. This is the mechanics of value. Scarcity creates value. Abundance creates neglect. If someone can access you at any moment, your presence becomes background noise. If access to you is earned, your presence becomes an event. Solitude gives you that scarcity by default. When you are comfortable alone, you stop begging for company. You stop using other people as a sedation. You start choosing, not chasing. You start evaluating. That is where authority comes from. Authority comes from the ability to say no without panic. Authority comes from the ability to be alone without collapsing. Schopenhauer respected solitude because he saw how shallow the social world can be. He saw that most people trade truth for acceptance. They trade independence for comfort. They trade depth for noise. Solitude is not a mood. It is a weapon against being trained by the crowd. Another reality is that silence is a dominant signal because it forces the other person to face their own mind. Most people cannot handle that. They need you to react so they can stay busy. They need you to reassure them, argue with them, laugh with them, and fight with them, Any reaction will do because a response proves you are engaged. Engagement is control. You see this most with family. A relative provokes you with a loaded comment. "So, still single?" Or, "Bye, Anna? You going to get a real job?" They sue it with a smile so that they can deny it later. The room watches. Your old programming says you must respond. You must defend your choices. You must show you are fine. You start talking fast. You explain your plan. You try to impress. You try to earn respect from someone who isn't of it. That is you stepping into their court. That is you handing them authority. That is you are allowing their question to define your worth. They did not ask because they cared. They asked because they wanted to place you below them for a moment. When you react, you confirm that the placement worked. The cold move is silence, not sulking, not anger. Simple silence. You look at them, you breathe, and you let their comment sit in the air like a problem that belongs to them. Then you say something short, or you do not answer at all. You change the subject with control, not escape. Noted. Then why do you continue eating? The room will feel the shift. People hate awkwardness because awkwardness is truth without decoration. The one who can hold awkwardness holds the frame. Most people cannot hold it. They rush to soften it. They laugh to rescue the moment. They overtalk to repair the social fabric. That is why silence creates fear. Silence reveals who is trying to manage the room. Silence reveals who needs approval to breathe. Schopenhauer would see the provocation as a display of will. The person is asserting themselves. They want attention. They want superiority. When you deny them your reaction, you deny them the reward. The reward is not your words. The reward is your emotional movement. Silence is how you refuse to be harvested. Another reality is that solitude strips you of social camouflage. Most people hide in groups because groups blur responsibility. In groups, you can be average and still feel safe. In groups, you can borrow identity. You can borrow opinions. You can borrow confidence. Then you call it being part of a community. What you really did was outsource your spine. Look at your social life. You go out when you do not want to because you fear missing out. You laugh at jokes you do not like because you fear being the outsider. You agree with opinions you do not respect because you fear conflict. You think you are being easygoing. You are being managed. A group has a frame. The group decides what is cool, what is cringe, what is acceptable, and what is worth mocking. When you laugh along, you accept the group frame. When you try to explain your boundaries, you step into their court. When you argue to be understood, you hand them authority. You are being evaluated instead of evaluating. Solitude removes the group frame. That feels like danger to weak minds. Without the group, you have no script. You have no audience to validate you. You have no noise to drown out your own doubts. That is why people say they hate being alone. They do not hate being alone. They hate being without a borrowed identity. The cold move is to spend time alone on purpose, not as punishment. As training, you learn what you actually think. You learn what you actually want. You know who you become when nobody is clapping. Then, when you return to people, you stop bending for their approval. You stop performing. You enter the room with your own frame already built. That is dominance. Dominance is not loud. Dominance is self-contained. Schopenhauer would say that most social life is driven by vanity and boredom. People gather to escape themselves and to be seen. If you do not need to be seen, you have leverage. Your attention becomes scarce. Your presence becomes deliberate. That is why solitude is power. It builds a man who does not beg. Another reality is that explaining is often submission, especially in conflict. You think the rational move is to describe your intentions, your feelings, your reasons. You believe clarity will fix misunderstandings. That is the fantasy of the agreeable man. In fundamental power dynamics, explanations are usually demanded by someone who wants to place you below them. Watch a common relationship argument. The other person is upset. It may be justified, perhaps it is not, but the pattern is the same. They accuse. You respond with a long defense. You list details. You try to prove you are good. While you are speaking, they interrupt. They sigh. They roll their eyes. They are not listening to the truth. They are listening for weakness. Every extra sentence you give them is more material to twist. You accepted their frame the moment you started proving your innocence. You stepped into their court the moment you treated their emotion like a verdict. You handed them authority the moment you asked, "Do you believe me?" Now you are begging for a fair trial in a court designed to convict you. The cold move is to refuse the frame without escalating. You do not fight their emotions. You do not chase their approval. You state your position in a clean line. "I am not available for that," or "T@ is not what happened." Then why do you pause? Silence. You let them deal with the fact that you are not a defendant. If they want a conversation, they can speak like an adult. If they wish to control, they will expose themselves by pushing harder. This is where people panic. They think holding silence will make you look guilty. That is what weak minds believe, because they need constant explanation to feel safe. Strong minds understand that constant explanation breeds suspicion. When you explain too much, people smell fear. When you stay calm, people assume you are centered. Silence creates that assumption. Schopenhauer would call your need to be understood another form of suffering. The more you depend on other minds to validate your inner world, the more you suffer. Most people are unstable. Their moods change. Their judgments are shallow. Building your identity on their reactions is a foolish investment. Silence is how you stop making that investment. Another reality is that silence and solitude turn you into an observer, and observers control outcomes. Most people live inside their impulses. They react, tust, chijne, swir, thars, trege. They are always in motion. Motion feels like life. It is usually just avoidance. In any environment with status games like an office, a gym, or a friend's circle, the reactive person becomes a puppet. Someone throws a rumor. The reactive person spreads it. Someone criticizes them. They defend themselves. Someone ignores them. They chase. Their behavior becomes public data. People learn precisely how to move them. Now picture workplace politics. A coworker tries to recruit you into gossiping about the boss. They smile. They lower their voice. They want you to join their little conspiracy because shared negativity creates a bond. If you join, you are now in their frame. They own a piece of you. If the gossip comes back, you are exposed. If you refuse, you fear being labeled cold. The weak move is to participate so you can feel included. The cold move is silence. You do not feed it. You do not judge openly. You do not show disgust either. You stay neutral and sparse. I have no opinion on that. Then why do you return to your work? Now you are not in their web. Now you are not their tool. Solitude supports this because it reduces your need for social glue. People gossip because they need a connection. They are hungry. They use information as currency because they have no real value. When you are comfortable alone, you do not need a cheap connection. You can walk away from the table without fear. That is dominance. Not because you are better, but because you are less dependent. Schopenhauer saw that dependence multiplies suffering. The more you need the crowd, the more the crowd owns you. Silence and solitude are not romantic. They are practical. They remove the crowd from your nervous system. They remove the crowd from your decisions. That is what freedom looks like when you stop lying to yourself. There is another place where silence reveals who has leverage, and it is where most men embarrass themselves without noticing. Negotiation, money, access, agreements. This is where your need to be liked becomes expensive. Think about asking for a raise, setting a price, or defining terms with a client. You sit across from someone who has practice. They let you talk. You open confidently, but then you start filling space. You justify your number. You explain your costs. You offer discounts before they ask. You soften your request with jokes. You say, "I do not want to be difficult." In that moment, you admitted fear. You accepted their frame that you are asking for a favor. You stepped into their court where they decide your value for you. Most people think the friendly move wins. It feels good to be reasonable. It feels safe to show flexibility. It feels mature to explain every detail. But in negotiation, what feels friendly is often weak. The cold move is cleaner. You state your number. You state your boundary. Then you stop talking. Silence. That silence is not emptiness. It is pressure. It forces the other person to react. It forces them to show their position. If they have a counteroffer, they will say it. If they do not, they will try to make you uncomfortable, so you lower yourself. They will sigh. They will look away. They will repeat your number with disbelief. They will ask, "Why so much?" That question is not curiosity. It is a hook designed to put you on the defensive. If you start explaining again, you are back in the defendant's position, and you begin listing achievements. You start begging for fairness. You start proving you are worth it. Now the negotiation is no longer about value. It is about your hunger for approval. They can sense it in your voice. They can watch you bargain with yourself. The power move is to hold the pause. You can answer with one clean line and return to silence, because that is the rate. Or beau cause hat is the value of the result. Why do you use op? You do not stack reasons like bricks. You do not chase a smile. You do not try to be understood. You let them deal with the boundary. You stay still while they calculate. People fear this because they fear rejection. They fear losing the deal. They fear being judged as arrogant. They fear being disliked. So they talk. They lower. They surrender. They trade money and respect for the feeling of being accepted. That is not a strategy. That is dependence. Schopenhauer would recognize this instantly. He would say your suffering comes from wanting what the other person controls. In negotiation, you want their yes. The moment you want it too much, you become controllable. The other person does not need to hate you to use it. They follow the mechanics. Silence removes the signal of desperation. Silence tells them you can walk away. Silence tells them your identity is not attached to their approval. This is why silence is authority. It implies choice. It means you are not trapped. The man who can walk away owns the table. The man who cannot is always negotiating from the floor. Now let it connect. You are not hearing 7 separate ideas. You are seeing one mechanism in different costumes. Silence and solitude remove the leverage others use over you. They remove your craving for approval. They remove your reflex to explain. They remove your habit of reacting. Without those habits, the social world cannot easily place you. This is where most men collapse. They think power is about being liked. They believe power is about having a big network. They believe power is about constant engagement. That is the attention economy talking through them. In that economy, the one who is always available is always consumed. The one who is always visible is always judged. The one who is always explaining is always begging. When you cannot stand silence, you become a performer. You fill every gap with words. You fill every gap with jokes. You fill every gap with stories. You fill every gap with apologies. You do it to keep people comfortable. You do it to keep yourself safe. But safety is not respected. Safety is not authority. Safety is a cage with soft walls. When you cannot stand solitude, you become a customer in the approval market. You pay attention. You pay with time. You pay with lowered standards. You pay with over-availability. You pay with your spine. Then you wonder why you feel invisible. You wonder why people manage you rather than respect you. You wonder why you are tolerated rather than valued. Social invisibility is not always ignored. It is being used without being considered. It is being invited when someone needs help, not when someone wants your presence. It is being contacted when someone is bored, not when someone respects your mind. It is being spoken over in meetings. It is being kept as a backup. It is being treated like a resource instead of a man. Loss of leverage feels like anxiety. You feel it when you send a message and stare at the screen. You feel it when you wait for a reply. You feel it when you overthink a pause. You feel it when a friend does not invite you. You feel it when a partner goes cold. The anxious man thinks the solution is more effort, more texts, more explaining, more gifts, more softness. That is the trap. More effort means more submission. Silence creates fear because it removes your submission. Silence forces people to face their own uncertainty. They cannot read you. They cannot predict you. They cannot predict you. They cannot pull you with simple tactics. They lose the easy control they had when you were reactive. Distance creates authority because it signals choice. It signals that you are not orbiting them. Scarcity creates value because it makes your attention count. This is not cruelty. This is not a game. This is realism. The world responds to what you tolerate, not what you want. The world rewards what is scarce, not what is abundant. The world respects what is self-contained, not what is begging. Schopenhauer did not ask you to be kind to illusions. He asked you to see. When you become comfortable with silence, you stop treating every interaction like an audition. You stop trying to be the nicest, the funniest, the most helpful. You start being selective. You begin being precise. You begin setting boundaries without speeches. You start letting other people carry their own emotions. You stop managing the room. You stop managing their perception. That is where your authority grows, because authority is not granted by applause. Authority is taken by refusal. When you become comfortable with solitude, you stop using people as medication. You stop chasing attention to calm your nervous system. You stop confusing contact with connection. You stop confusing being needed with being respected. Your standards rise because you are not desperate. Your energy becomes sharper because you are not scattered. You become harder to manipulate because you do not fear being alone. People will test you when you change. They will use silence to provoke you. They will delay replies. They will throw minor insults. They will ask for explanations. They will ask for explanations. They will label you cold. They will say you changed. They are not reporting facts. They are reporting a loss. They lost access to your reactions. They lost the easy button. You need to recognize the pattern. The moment you feel the urge to explain, someone is trying to place you. The moment you feel the urge to fill the silence, someone is watching you. The moment you feel the urge to chase, someone has moved you. Your job is not to punish them. Your job is to refuse the frame. You do not need to announce it. You stop playing. Even Nietzsche, for one brief moment, saw the same raw truth in his own way. The crowd cannot create a strong man. The crowd can only reward a helpful man. Strength is built in solitude, where there is no applause. Then you return to the world with a different posture, not arrogant, not loud, unowned. Schopenhauer would tell you that most suffering comes from desire, and one of the most humiliating desires is the desire to be approved. That desire makes you volunteer for chains. Silence and solitude are how you remove the chain. They are how you stop asking permission to exist. Now take one real-world challenge, not a fantasy, not a plan you will forget. For the next 7 days, every time someone tries to pull you into their frame with a loaded question, a baiting joke, a sudden accusation, or a demand for explanation, you will answer with one clear sentence, then you will stop. You will let silence do its work. You will not rush to fix their feelings. You will not rush to rescue the moment. You will not rush to be like one sentence, then calm, then presence. That is how you train authority. If you want proof, watch what happens. Some people will respect you more without knowing why. Some people will get angry because your silence exposes their need for control. Some people will drift away because they only liked the version of you that was easy to steer. That is not a loss. That is separation from the herd. If you can handle this, you are not playing a character. You are building a position. Silence becomes your shield. Solitude becomes your base. You stop reacting. You start selecting. You stop explaining. You start evaluating. You stop chasing approval. You start commanding your frame. If this hit you, write "I am strategist" once in the comments to mark the day your mindset changed. Like the video if you recognize yourself in it. Subscribe if you want more realities without decoration. Then close the app and return to your life with a different rule in place. You do not fill silence to be safe. You use silence to stay in control. You do not fear solitude. You feel at ease in it. You use solitude to remain unowned. Keep your frame. Keep your authority. Move like you already understand the game.